All right, good afternoon and welcome to Refrigerant Management Canada webinar for wholesalers, delving into HRAI's RMC program with valuable insights and essential information. And providing that information is going to be Bill Yeo, consultant of the RMC program, and Kathleen O'Malley, manager of environmental services. And before I pass the reins over to these two fine folks, I just want to do a couple housekeeping items. This is an interactive presentation. Once it's done, we will be open for questions. If you'd like to ask Kathleen or Bill anything that you've seen in the presentation, you can do so in our chat button at the bottom or the Q&A button as well. And we will get to as many of those as we can, and we will follow up afterwards if time runs out. Otherwise, this is being recorded. If you'd like to share it, watch it again, you can find it on HRI's YouTube page, usually by the end of the day. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Kathleen, who's on my screen right now, who will begin sharing the presentation. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate the introduction. And hi, everyone. My name is Kathleen O'Malley. I'm the Manager of Environmental Services with HRAI. And I am happy to be here today to provide information about the Refrigerant Management Canada program. I'll be co-presenting with Bill Yeo, and I'll be talking about the RMC program background, the funding, the collection process, as well as the destruction process. And then I'll hand it over to Bill to talk about the regulatory requirements and the P2 plan. So a little bit of background about RMC. So Refrigerant Management Canada is a not-for-profit corporation established in 2000 by HRAI and the HVAC industry. It's an industry-led environmental program committed to the responsible disposal of halocarbon refrigerants. RMC brings together manufacturers, contractors, wholesalers, and collection service providers. It's an extended producer responsibility stewardship program that ensures that all surplus halocarbon refrigerants are managed in the most environmentally responsible manner to minimize the depletion of the ozone layer and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So in May of 2016, Environment and Climate Change Canada, ECCC, announced the P2 plan, mandating participants importing refrigerants into Canada either be part of or have their own stewardship program to manage the refrigerants through to end of life. So all of the existing RMC participants at the time agreed to have RMC represent them with regards to the P2 plan, and it became a mandatory program from a voluntary program. So RMC maintains performance standards and guidelines to ensure the program meets its mandates, including established standards for the containers and the cylinders, the testing, and monthly tracking reports on volumes collected and destroyed. So RMC is administered by HRAI and falls under the HRAI board. RMC is governed by its own board of directors, comprised of industry representatives from the HVAC industry. So here's a list of RMC's board members. The board is comprised of HVAC contractors, wholesalers, and manufacturers. We also have 3 observers, which is ECCC and our 2 collection service providers, RSI and GFL, which used to be Fielding. And the observers do not have voting rights on the board. So this slide illustrates some of the key aspects of RMC's responsibility. So we've got reporting to ECCC and to the province of Ontario. We've got environmental and financial audits. We also manage carbon credits, the levy administration, collection services, and the destruction services. So RMC levy and who pays? So the RMC program does not receive government funding, and it's funded by an environmental levy on the first sale of new and reclaimed HCFC and HFC refrigerants and their blends sold into the stationary and air conditioning industry. So currently the RMC levies are $6.50 a kilogram for HCFCs and $2.50 a kilogram for HFCs. So the levy is set by the RMC Board of Directors, and funds from the levy cover the costs of the program, including the transportation and the testing, storage, disposal of the waste refrigerant. We also receive revenue from the sale of the carbon credits, which helps fund the program. And the most recent levy increase was approved by the RMC board back in October 2023, and it came into effect on February 1st, 2024. So currently, there are 8 levy contributors who fund the RMC program. So these 8 manufacturers or producers fund the RMC program. We've got AGAS, Alltemp, Arkema, Chemours, GFL, Honeywell, Messer, Mexichem, and RSI. And outside industry, so the levy is not charged on refrigerants sold in the appliance and automotive sectors. So RMC has implemented a user fee to cover the handling and destroying of refrigerants from these industries. Currently, the user fee is $30 a kilogram, and it's payable directly to RMC. It's important to note that no refrigerant from the appliance or automotive industry be returned to a wholesaler free of charge. So refrigerants from outside the HVAC industry are not supported by the RMC environmental levy. Therefore, wholesalers must charge the user fee, otherwise they're considered free riders. And also I'd like to point out that RMC does not accept refrigerant that is contaminated with the Duracool or the RedTech from the automotive industry. These products are hydrocarbon and contain propane. RMC's disposal process is performed by incineration. Therefore, products containing propane can't be accepted. And if any is detected, once the cylinder is received at the CSP and it's tested, the cylinders will be returned. And the collection process. So the waste refrigerant is collected through our wholesalers. The contractors, they recover the refrigerant in the recovery cylinders and take it to a wholesaler. The wholesaler stores it until they have enough to ship, and then they will ship the waste refrigerant to one of RMC's collection service providers, either GFL, which is located in Mississauga, Ontario, or RSI, which is located in Nova Scotia. And also there's a $30 per kilogram charge for R11 or CFC 11. So the CSPs, they receive the refrigerant, they weigh it, they test it, and then they transfer the refrigerant into 1,000-pound bulk cylinders for storage. And then when ready, the refrigerant is then transferred into ISO tanks for shipment to the disposal facility. The CSPs are subject to environmental compliance audits every 3 years, and the movement of refrigerant is very closely tracked and verified during these audits. So here's a few pictures of RSI in Nova Scotia. These were taken during a site visit in the fall of 2023. The photo on the right is an ISO getting ready to be shipped for disposal. The photos on the left are the 1,000-pound cylinders, the bulk cylinders being stored, and the refrigerant is transferred from those into the ISOs when ready. The ISOs typically hold 13,500 kilograms of waste refrigerant, and RMC has a fleet of 14 ISOs that we lease, and we'll likely ship 14 ISOs this fiscal from the 2024-2025 fiscal, which is July 1st to June 30th. So our ISOs are kind of always moving. They're either at the CSPs or to the destruction facility or getting maintained, and they're always moving. And this is a picture of GFL in Mississauga. So there's 2 ISOs there on the picture on the right. They're getting ready for to be shipped to the destruction facility, and the photo on the left is showing the refrigerant being transferred from the recovery cylinders that the wholesalers ship to the CSPs into the 1,000-pounders to be stored. And the disposal. So once the CSP has an ISO ready for disposal, they apply for the export permits through ECCC and the EPA. When all the export shipping permits have been received, the ISO is then shipped to the destruction facility. RMC uses Veolia, located in Port Arthur, Texas, which is just east of Houston, as the destruction facility. And RMC works very closely with Veolia, and they were recently awarded the Warren Healy Environmental Achievement Award last year at the HRAI AGM. Also, there's currently no destruction facility in Canada that destroys waste refrigerant. Historically, the waste refrigerant was shipped to Swan Hills in Alberta. However, that facility no longer receives waste refrigerant for destruction, and RMC's last shipment to Swan Hills was in 2021. And here's a few pictures of Veolia in Port Arthur, Texas, I took during a site visit last year. That's ISO on the left. That's one of RMC's ISOs that the refrigerant has been removed and been destroyed, and the ISO is getting ready to be shipped back to Canada. And the other 2 are Veolia's kiln and stack. Skip over this slide. And this is my last slide. So RMC remains the #1 program of its kind in North America. Since its inception in 2000, RMC has successfully collected and destroyed 4.6 million kilograms of refrigerants, preventing the release of significant quantities of greenhouse gas emissions and contributing to Canada's climate objectives. This accomplishment reflects the power and collaboration of the partnership, and RMC's ongoing success would not be possible without the dedicated support of our wholesalers across the country. The shared commitment to responsible refrigerant management ensures the program continues to protect the environment while setting a standard for excellence. So thank you to all of our wholesalers involved in the RMC program. So I am now going to pass the presentation over to Bill, and he will talk about the regulatory requirement and the P2 plan. So over to you, Bill.
Great. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, depending on which time zone you're in. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to help present on the P2 plan and some regulatory requirements around it. Next slide, please. The pollution prevention plan for refrigerant is kind of unique in Canada in that it is a federal program. A lot of the other stewardship programs for various waste streams in Canada are regulated provincially. So the uniqueness of refrigerants is a federal program which covers all of Canada. And one of the requirements of a P2 plan is to be able to collect and consolidate and then final disposal or recycle of the refrigerant based in any geography where the refrigerant is sold. So this makes it very challenging in certain geographies, provinces, territories. So that's one of the main challenges of the RMC program. Next slide, please. So in Canada, the Protection Act of 1999 was really where the federal regulation came into play for the pollution prevention plan. And it deals with halocarbons used as refrigerants. There's an email or a website address there if you want to look at the specific P2 plan and the requirements. This regulation is very different than the ozone depleting substances and halocarbon alternative regulation in the fact that the ozone depletion regulation has to deal with the phase down of halocarbons in the Canadian geography. This has nothing to do with the P2 plan and how it is administered and run. So it's very important to distinguish the two. And again, all importers or halocarbon refrigerants have to join a stewardship program and pay into the program in order to be compliant with the regulation and manage the refrigerants through to end of life. The implementation plan in relation to the management of halocarbons refrigerants covers air conditioning or refrigeration systems. Kathleen mentioned earlier that automotive and appliances aren't part of the regulation, but in certain cases, RMC will help to manage those products and programs. Next slide, please. So the regulation started in 2016. A lot of the existing members of RMC were involved in a voluntary program, which shows how unique Canada is in terms of halocarbon refrigerant stewardship programs. A lot of the members had paid into the program before this, and again, it was a voluntary program. Some of the substances that are included under the halocarbon program, CFCs, HCFCs, and HFCs. All of the manufacturers or reclaimers of halocarbon, whether alone or in mixtures. So part of the complexity of collecting these is what is the chemistry in the cylinder and how it's dealt with. So any blends of the different products too would be part of the stewardship program. One of the main things is these are all ozone depleting or high global warming potential products, which significantly impact the atmosphere. And part of the reasoning is most of them are containing fluoride and carbon bonds, which are very, very strong bonds. And these contribute to them hanging around for a long time without degrading into chemicals that aren't detrimental to the Earth's atmosphere. Next slide, please. Some specific examples of blends of HFC, hydrocarbons, and hydrofluorocarbons and hydrofluoroolefins are listed below, 449A, 454A, and 513A. As you can see, they're not all A1 or A2Ls. They have, in some cases, significant global warming potential compared to other just newer types of chemistry, such as hydrofluoroolefins. None of the ones listed there have hydrocarbons in them, but some of the ones that do would be 424A, 426A, say 453A, as some examples of HFCs and hydrocarbon blends. Next slide, please. So the regulation dictates that any first importer or first seller into the Canadian marketplace must join or develop a stewardship program. They must manage the recovery of the refrigerants to prevent any harmful leakage into the atmosphere, either that or to impact human health. The refrigerants could be reclaimed, recycled, or destroyed, and RMC, their program basically tracks wherever the refrigerant's going, the amount and how it is managed once it enters the program. The P2 program must provide access to collection facilities across every province and territory where the refrigerant is sold. So this becomes very complex if, say, a first distributor is only selling in one specific province, because wherever they're selling into that province, that refrigerant could be sold again into another province and end up back into, say, the RMC program, which would significantly impact the cost of all of the participants in the program. So this is something that RMC's spoken to Environment Canada and climate change about, and they're aware of the situation. There's something else that the government has, and it's called an Environmental Code of Practice for the Elimination of Fluorocarbon Emissions. And RMC works closely with Environment Canada to make sure that this Environmental Code of Practice is communicated out into the marketplace, either through technicians or seminars such as this, and that way people are aware of what the responsibility is. Next slide, please. The key requirements of participants are communication and education of the plan to increase awareness of stewardship programs. There's targets developed on an annual basis that ideally RMC is trying to meet in terms of volumes of collected refrigerants. Every 3 years, there's an ISO audit conducted to make sure that the processes and tracking procedures are up to date. And a key important aspect of the program, that all national, provincial, and local laws and regulations are followed. And part of this could be like a local law would be fire regulations, provincial law would be waste handling and waste generation licensing, and national is basically the P2 program itself and how the program is managed. The main focus is environmental compliance and having audits done on a regular basis to make sure that compliance is maintained. There's a yearly report that's generated and submitted to ECCC Canada as well, and this basically publishes information on the targets. Next slide, please. So Kathleen spoke earlier about some of the exemptions, and mobile air conditioning. Typically, this would be 134A or 1234YF. And we're starting to see some CO2, which is R744, entering the marketplace. None of those refrigerants that are used in that specific application should be entering the RMC program via wholesaler collection. These should all be dealt with. If they want aid in disposal or recycle, these should be managed directly through RMC. Domestic appliances is another one. Again, 134A could be propane and isobutane. We're starting to see some of those gases are not halocarbons, but again, domestic appliances are looking for solutions for destruction and disposal. So RMC can definitely help with that, but there should be no collection of domestic appliance refrigerants through the wholesalers. Any equipment, refrigeration or air conditioning equipment that's manufactured in Canada and exported, typically that would not be covered under the RMC program because it's leaving Canada. Therefore, no levy payment would be typically made on that type of a material leaving Canada. And then a special note, mobile reefer refrigerants are not exempt from the regulation because they are refrigerants. Although they're in a truck, these are considered refrigerants, and a levy should be charged against these refrigerants. And typically there are R404A and R452A. So the 452A is a blend of hydrofluorocarbons and hydrofluoroolefins, which means it's a blend, but the levy should be charged on the total weight of that refrigerant because it ultimately would go for incineration. Next slide, please. So the halocarbon P2 plan for Canada, there's only two plans that currently exist, Refrigerant Management Canada. And again, Kathleen went over what that plan incorporated and the very successful history of the program. The second program that is currently in place is Refrigerant Management Canada, United Refrigeration of Canada, Recovered Refrigerant Management Program. And typically United has some retail outlets they'll sell equipment and refrigeration, and typically that's where they would collect their refrigerants and distribute them into the market. The link below is a source of information on the various programs, and if you want to look and review some of the program and overall performance of the programs, you can follow that link. Next slide, please. So most of the people on the call are probably wholesalers. So what's the wholesaler responsibility? There's nothing that really the regulation says that the wholesaler must do, but working with RMC is a benefit to the wholesaler in terms of somebody coming to buy a refrigerant typically would want to be able to drop off reclaimed, reused refrigerant. So whenever they're coming to drop off that refrigerant, they have the opportunity to buy new refrigerant through a wholesaler. So that's why wholesalers typically would participate in the stewardship program. They serve as primary collection depots, which means we're able to collect various quantities of refrigerant rather than one or two cylinders at a time. We would typically be able to collect a pallet of reclaimed cylinders, which makes it a lot more efficient and cost effective. The thing that the wholesaler is responsible for doing is completing the cylinder tags or ensuring that when the cylinders are returned, the tags are completed accurately and effectively. And this allows detailed tracking of the cylinders, their contents, where they came from, and the quantities. And anytime there's communication that's required out to technicians in the field, wholesalers typically are a very good source to be able to do that, to provide consistent messages to all, say, contractors and service technicians that they provide products and services to. Next slide, please. That ends the presentation, and I think I'll send it back to Kathleen and Matt, and they can organize the questions.
You bet. So if you want to leave your questions, we've got one already. At the bottom of your screen, you'll find the Q&A box, and you can also put them in chat too, and we can collect them there. So I'll pose this to both of you. We got one in. If a wholesaler wants to join the program, do they have to be an HRAI member?
I can answer that. No, not necessarily, but of course we do recommend it, and it would be great if you'd be HRI member, but it is not a requirement.
Easy and simple. No other questions right now, but you'll see on your screen there's contact information. If you'd like to reach out to Kathleen or Bill, they can answer anything you want. Let's leave it open for a couple more minutes. Any calls to action from you guys before we wrap it up?
I will just add, if so the wholesalers, thank you for joining, and if you know of any branches that are not on the RMC program, please reach out and we'd love to get you involved.
I got one question from Thomas. I'm curious if RMC pays a tariff when the ISO tanks are shipped to Texas.
Very good question. We are monitoring that at the moment. We've looked up the tariff locator code on the I guess Canada website, and at the moment there is no tariff from our understanding. We have shipped 2 ISOs to the States recently, and we're monitoring that. But at the moment, we do not think there is a tariff on the ISOs, but we're still trying to figure that out and grapple that.
Thank you. Another question: are there plans to update in the future? Kind of a broad question, I guess, meaning the program or parameters.
Yeah, that's a tough one. If you could be a little bit more specific on that, try to answer.
Yes,
Sure.
you could also comment maybe on the government received feedback on the program and is currently reviewing the submissions around the current stewardship program and some of the other chemicals that are coming into Canada.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, we'll wait a couple of seconds to see if they want to provide just a little more detail on the question. If not, I think we can call it a wrap. All right. Well, while they're maybe typing, I just want to thank you, everyone who showed up. Thank you, Kathleen and Bill, for the information. And this information is on the RMC website, as well as through you guys if people want to reach out as well. So without further ado, we will see you for the next HRI webinar, and thank you again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon. Cheers.